Shift plus O is the artboard tool. You can see right here. And I can hold Option or Alt and duplicate that. So here's Dopey, and it's telling me things that are locked aren't moving, and what's not locked. Well, I had that blue line Dopey under that. So now this one's colored. I can get I'll make a layer called light and shadow here. And on this one, um, I have this example here that shows you how Dopey looks like the airbrush version. And so I'm just going to duplicate this hat. See what I've done here on the hat? Um, oh, and when I move that hat over there, and I'll move that, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to grab all of Dopey's head here. I'm just going to drag it over here. And you can see here, I've added some light and shadow already. Last time I demoed that. And first thing I'm going to do, look at this nose here. How did I do that? Well, here's the little shape for shadow. Here's a little shape for highlight. See that? So how did I do that? Well, I just looked at this nose shape here. And here's something about this technique. Watch what happens when I turn off my line work. Oh, wow. That drawing doesn't look good at all. But I wasn't worried about so much accuracy. I was just worried about filling the color in. See, with the line work, it's nice. But now I want line work locked again. And so for this nose here, I want to take this color here and get a darker shadow color of it. And so I'll deselect that. And here's my color. I want a shadow color of that. And so I would pick that. Before I do that, though, I'm just going to get a pen tool, P for pen tool, and I'm going to come in and say, I'm going to lock that color, the solid color layer as well. And I've got a layer here I've made called light and shadow. And I'm going to just click, 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 click. I'll come here to the middle, click and drag because I want a nice curve there, and click. Okay, this area here is going to be shadow color. And so I'll double click here. So there's the Dopey skin color. If I click in the color picker, it's a tint, add light, shade, add black, and tone, add gray. And so I just want a darker color. Look what I had there. Okay, that's nice. I can get the direct selection tool and say, I wish that was down a little bit. Okay, that's a pretty nice shadow there for Dopey's nose. If I wanted it to go up, maybe I want the light source to be more upper left. I might select just this point and move it up a little bit. And I might get a little curve there. Okay, so that's pretty nice. It's a little hard edge. That's okay. I'm going to fix that. And then I'll just get the ellipse tool and I'll draw. And right now that's that same color. It won't stay that color. And I rotated it. So that's going to be a highlight. I'll just tell that to be filled with white. I'll go to my my color. I threw away my swatches. So I'll just tell that to be white. Okay. And so that's going to be some Dopey color. I'm going to go, I'll select both of these and I'm going to go to effect, and I'm going to go to blur, and I'm going to go to Gaussian blur. And I'll go to like a, whatever looks good. I'm going to say, like a 3.5 pixel essentially. And see what that did. It blurred them. If I think that's too bright for that highlight, I could always go to transparency and knock that down a little bit in transparency. So there, now I have a nice highlight and a nice shadow on Dopey's nose. So we could do that. We could draw shadow shapes, or remember our good friend, the Freeform gradient tool. I'm going to do this part on his hat with the Freeform gradient tool. So I'll eyedrop here, pick that. And in this case, I'll need to unlock the solid color here. If I tell this to be a freeform gradient tool, so I'll hit G for gradient, may not be happy with it. Because what's going to happen? Here's the gradient tool. And I'll get the gradient panel out here. If I tell this to be a freeform gradient, okay, it changed color. Why did it change color? Because that was the color I had in, well, I don't know why I did that, but I'll tell this to be a freeform gradient. And it's got a couple of points. So I could color this. I could go back here. This is going to help if I have my dopey colors, and I do happen to already have put them here. So I've got my regular so I'm selecting these anchor points here, and then I'll go to, I'll double click. I'll say, okay, let's be that normal dopey fill color. And, or I could have just left those. I'm going to do this another, I'm going to undo. I decided I'm going to select this one here, that solid color layer. I'll select that, copy, and then I'm going to go back and lock the solid layer. And then I'll come onto the light and shadow layer here. I'll paste that in front. So now I actually have two of the same layer. And I'll tell this one to be the radial gradient. So, okay, radial gradient, and it changed it to that same thing. With the radial gradient, I can select a gradient point and just hit delete, and it'll get rid of it. So I'll tell that to be this dopey color, and I'll tell this to be the dopey color. Double click on the a color point, and there's the color that Dopey's hat was. Okay, so this has more than one technique. So that's using points in the, I decided I want to use, I'm going to select this one here. I decided I want shadow along this side. I'm going to say lines here. Before I do that though, I'm going to double click on this point here, double click, and I'll pick a shadow color. And so that's a lot of shadow, but I'll say, okay, I'm not worrying about that yet. I'm gonna say line color here, and I'll click on this one and then click, gotta click lines. Click this one, lines, and you see I can click and click, 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 and that's gonna do those colors. And then I could come back and say, all right, I like that. And actually I'm gonna click, 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 click. And those are all going to be shadow colors. And then I can click off of those and say, okay, I'm going to click points now. I'll click a point here. And this point, I can double click and make it the regular fill color. I'll click here, make it that regular fill color. And I can move these. I can also grab this little circle and make it bigger. And I would want to do that. And I can push it. So those things there are the regular color points. And so I'm getting shadow, and I can just keep making those same points, and they'll just keep being the same color if I click them. And so I'm getting those colors, or I'm going to undo a bunch of those. So I'll delete that one. I could say, okay, I want to do lines. I can select this one and I'll tell it to be lines, and then click that one, click, connect to that one, come up here. See, that's that regular dopey fill color, and come over here. So I'm using lines for that, and I'll go right to the edge, connect to that one. And so that's the regular dopey fill color. I decided I wanted to move that anchor point up a little bit there. Maybe I'll want to move this one over a little bit. And so see, I'm getting some nice curvature there. I want the shadow color over here again. I'll select one of those ones, come over here and click. It's going to be a point at first. Oh, it says it's lines. That's fine. I'll pick the shadow color, and then I can do some shadow. So that is just a simple drawing, but you can see I can get some highlight and shadow on it. So freeform gradient, it's a good way to get some light and shadow. I just taught you two ways to do it. You can get use Gaussian blur like I've done here. Come over and look at the appearance panel and you'll see that I've got a Gaussian blur on that. I can turn that off and it'll be hard edge. I can turn it back on and it's got that blur to it. So Gaussian blur is one way you can get some dimensionality on this. And also the freeform gradient. I'll pull this one down into this area a little bit more and you see what I get. This guy over more. And I'm going to click one more point there just to get that regular color into it a little bit more. So that's line mode in the freeform gradient tool. And then you can always, if you haven't made swatches, you can always just in the swatch panel, or when you double click that, you could click the eyedropper and sample another area, like maybe I want a middle area there. See what I'm doing, getting a little darker. Or wherever I click that, it'll pick that color. I'll click green, you'll see what happens. See, you give me green there. Or when I double click on the swatch, I can use the sliders. Maybe I want a little more darker color, a little lighter color. You see what I get. Or I can click in the CMYK color spectrum as well. I'll do red here just so you can see what happens. Red's not what I would want, but you get the idea that you can change the color. So I have a mid value, I have a highlight value, and I have a shadow value in there with Dopey's hat. So that's how you can get value in this. This may be something you'll want to consider for your infographic. So that's so on this one, you will have an AI file and it'll be two artboards. You'll have the flat color like that, and then you will, and I only did his hat because I don't want to do a half-hour demo, but you do the same thing, on his shoulders and stuff. And so you could say, well, I'll copy that layer and paint on it. But you gotta see, that's how I did this layer here. You got that colored layer there. And so I can't come in on this layer here where there's no artwork. If I turn off the solid color, see there's no artwork there. So it looks like, okay, I'm on the light and shadow layer. If I click, oh, I want the freeform gradient here, I'll click the gradient tool and I'll I'll say, all right, I want lines, and look, it's grayed out. Why? Okay, now it's not. And I try to click here, and I've got that no can do. I got that circle with a line through it. Why? Because there's no shape there because I haven't drawn anything on that layer. And so to get this one to work here, again, I would keep that regular flat color. I would copy this and I would paste it, and I would lock that layer. Then I would paste it into this layer. Or for that matter, you could just do it in the solid color. You don't have to have a second layer. You already have that work over here as well. And so now I could say, okay, I'm going to do, some gradient with that shape selected. I could come in and say, okay, I'm going to do a radial gradient, and it's going to, turn into, not what you want initially, because there's that same old purple color, but I've got my dopey colors here already. And I'm saying I'll do points for starters. I'll just delete that one. I can select a point and then it will, give me those, delete that point, fill those with click on that one. That's going to give me more of those. Now I could come in and I'll click here and I'll say I'm going to lines now, and I'll double click on that one and see I've already, well, I don't really have a different green. So I'll double click here and get a darker green. That's going to be a good shadow color there. And now I'm in line mode. Now I just come along this edge here, click, click, click. And so see, I've got a nice shadow area there. Maybe I want a little highlight here. I'll just click. I'll move this. I'm going to get out of line mode. I'll go to point mode here. Whoops. I'll select that one. If I go to point mode, now I can move this one here. I'll click, want to highlight here. I can double click on that and say, all right, here's a highlight color, or maybe I just want like a yellow for the highlight. So I'll say be yellow for that. I could add, I'll tell this one to be that yellow color. So I can add highlights. I'll click on this color, say that's where I want the green to be, and tell it to be that green color. So try a combination of, the lines work really well for edging, and it works a little better than the Gaussian blur. I'm going to show you one more thing. You got to be careful if you do the Gaussian blur technique. I'm going to tell this blur to be, see, it says 3.29. If I tell it to be really big, what happens, you can't see so well, but it will blend into this color area here as well. As hit cancel. If it's at the edge of a thing here, you'd see blur coming into this white area. Anyway, so that's just a way to, so color this with the blob brush. The color part should go pretty quick. And then do the whole guy in with light and shadow. It's going to help you for your infographic technique that might be useful for you for infographic. Okay, so that's you have your line art one, then you have a solid color, then you have a dimensional shaded